Welcome back to Learning Unity with 3D Game Kit. So far we've set up a sandbox scene and organized our level. Now it's time to add some enemies. In this video we're going to cover how to place and tune enemies, making sure they interact correctly with our world. We'll start by organizing our characters, then set up enemy behavior, including making them move and attack properly. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, what do I mean by organizing our characters? You might be saying, hey, don't we already have a characters menu? And you are absolutely correct. But we want to keep track of where Ellen is because she's our main character and she's going to need to be placed places and loaded into levels and basically kept track of. So to organize this, what I might do is go ahead and create an empty here. I can do so by just right-clicking, create empty, and we can rename it in a similar structure here with dashes. So they have, 4 or 5 dashes here. We can make this called enemies, and then add in 5 more dashes. And what I can do is I can drag this underneath the characters menu here. So make sure it's under characters, but underneath Ellen. So that way we have a place to nest them, and we know where these are going to go. Now, we can go ahead and navigate to where our characters are located. So we know they're going to be in the 3D Game Kit here. They're going to be a prefab, and they're going to be under characters, and you'll see a category here called enemies. So in enemies, we have a few different options. We have a chomper, grenadier, and a spitter, or grenader. We're going to click into chomper here, and you'll see we have 2 chompers here. We have a chomper ragdoll prefab and a chomper. We want to grab the chomper, and this is going to be our main little enemy. Now, to bring it into the scene, we can just drag him into here, and you'll see there he is, our little chomper in all its glory. And yeah, it's a little bit hard to see. So let's talk about what's going on here. You can see there is a lot of colors going on with this little guy. The blue is going to show attack area here, and we can actually control that over here in the chomper behavior script. So inside of the script itself, you'll see there's all sorts of stuff in the inspector here. We have the animator that controls the animation, so we can just hit this arrow to collapse that. And then we have the behavior script. These are going to be all the things that make it behave in different ways. Notice there's not really editable parameters here, so we're going to close that. We have a damage script. This is going to be useful. You can see we can adjust the maximum hit points. We're going to leave these to 1 for now. And you'll see there's a lot of different lists that we can adjust here. We can also collapse that for the time being. Replace with ragdoll. You can see that's going to swap in that ragdoll, so we know we're not going to bring that in. We already know what a collider is. Enemy controller, this is for the AI. And finally, we have the nav mesh here, which is going to be how it moves. And we're going to need a nav mesh agent to make that happen. Now, the attack radius was under one of these here. We'd have to take a look and kind of dig through. If we take a look here under the chomper behavior script, you'll see under the planner scanner, there's this height offset, detection radius, detection angle. And if I adjust that, you'll see that is what is going to be adjusted here. This is basically the line of sight of the chomper. So if we wanted to make these guys very narrow-sighted, we can bring that in. If we wanted to make them like sound base, where they can hear the person anywhere, we could make that a full circle. In this case, I'm going to make it a little bit more narrow, so we have to run in front of it. All right. So now that we've kind of done a tour of those different components, we're going to manipulate them, but let's hit play just to see what happens with this little guy. All right, I can hear him, and there he is, our fierce little chomper. And if I run to it, you'll see he has detected me, but there's a bit of an issue. He can't get to me. So we haven't told the game where this little guy can run. However, if I run up and get close enough, you'll see he can damage me, and I should be able to attack and damage him. And that's the ragdoll there, throwing him into the air. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about how to make this guy able to run so we can start playing around with his parameters, making it a little bit more interesting. What we need to add to the scene is something called a nav mesh. Nav mesh means navigation mesh, and you can use it as a means of making AI, artificial intelligent characters, enemies, navigate the scene. So how we're going to do this is we're going to set up a component to attach it to. So over here, we're going to right-click, and we're just going to create empty here. And we can go ahead and name this nav, or if you wanted to make it nav mesh so you can remember, you can do so. Then what we need to do is add a nav mesh component. We haven't discussed this so far. Everything we've had has had its own components attached. But if you would like to add a component, you can do so over here in the inspector with the add component. If you go ahead and click into that, it will pull up a search menu, and if you know what you're looking for, you can type it in. So we know we're looking for a nav mesh, and you'll see we have a few different options here. What we need is a nav mesh surface, which you will see is located here. The nav mesh surface will allow us to calculate the surface of the scene. We can change the agent type to Chomper. You'll see the drop-down menu. It's either humanoid or Chomper. So in this case, we need it to Chomper. Now, why is this being able to identify Chomper? It's because there's scripts in the scene designed for this, okay? So we're going to set that to Chomper. And then we can click this option here called Bake to bake this to the level. And this will go ahead and create a mapping of the world that will indicate everywhere that the little Chomper can go. So let's go ahead and click Bake. And you'll see it will take some time here, and it will show you everywhere that Chomper can go. Now, we can also organize this regarding layers. You can see this Include Layers section here. You'll see it's currently set to everything, but there may be things we don't want this to be able to walk on. So just kind of be aware that's how we can control. For example, right now it can go on top of the ship. If I look at this ship here, it's on the environment layer, so I don't think we're going to be able to change that. But, you know, if there was something we didn't want it to be able to walk on, we could edit that out. So we might take a look at that later. For example, we might want to adjust it so it can't go through vegetation or certain walls. For now, we'll just kind of leave this be. But if we go ahead and hit play now that we have this nav mesh in our scene with this baked and hit play, our little Chomper should be able to run after us. All right, so he hasn't aggroed yet, but if I run into his field of view, there you go. He can chase us. If I jump up here, I don't know if he can get us up here. Oh, he can get us up here. How about on top of a platform? Are we safe? All right, he gave up. So you can see that the little guys can't jump. They reset when they're done. And hey, we now have some behavior. We have our little critter here able to run and come after us. So at this stage, we can start playing around with these guys a little bit more and having some fun with them. Let's go ahead and organize our nav mesh, though, in our Chomper here, our level. I'm going to put my Chomper under my Enemies tab here, and I'm going to put my nav mesh also under the enemies here, so that way I can see those and they're good to go. Now, if you want to turn off all these crazy rainbow colors, what we can do is we can toggle the gizmos, and the gizmos are located here, this icon here, toggle visibility of all gizmos. If we click that on and off, you can see that will turn those on and off. You can also click through here to turn off specific gizmos. For now, I'll go ahead and turn that off and we can play around with these. Now, to get started, you know, we can create sort of a narrative here with our characters. For example, we could kind of hide this guy here behind something so the player doesn't know there's a Chomper about to come and get him. I'm just going to get F here to frame up on this. And if I turn gizmos back on, we can kind of see its field of view. So what I would want to do is maybe set it up so if they go on the staircase there, this Chomper is going to come get them. You know, maybe we could hide it behind here and we could create kind of a neat scenario. We can also do various things with Chompers. So for example, this is kind of your basic Chomper. You know, it's 1 health, not very scary, but maybe we could create kind of a scary boss Chomper. So I could create a bigger Chomper here. And to do that, all I have to do is come in here and scale this up. So we could increase the size and maybe alter some of its parameters. So we took a look at these earlier. If we come in here to the Chomper behavior script, we could create a stronger detection angle. So this one maybe aggroes the entire area it's in. It's a little bit stronger, a little bit smarter. We could change the radius, though. Maybe it's not as aggressive. Maybe it just wants to play King of the Hill, and this is its rock. The other thing we can do is in the damageable script, rather than making this have 1 hit point, maybe we could give it 3. So it's kind of a big boss guy, or maybe even go more extreme and give it 5. All right. So we could have some fun editing those. Let's hit play now. And if we take a look at this now, you'll see our big bad Chomper here. He'll come try and get us. And you'll see he actually aggroes further. But, well, we can fight him off. So Not sure where he exploded to. It looks like he went there. You can see there's some issues with the ragdoll scale, but that's okay. And then we have this little guy here, and when I try and climb this, you'll see he'll come running at me and try and ambush me. So that's kind of fun. So we could experiment with these guys, kind of set up some different scenarios. But before we do, let's talk about one of our other enemies in here, which is going to be the spitter. And you can see we have these little spitter guys. These guys are like chompers, but they're ranged. So maybe we utilize these in a different area, like, you know, maybe over here on these platforms. We could put some little ranged guys. So that way it adds a little bit more of a challenge. When you come up here, you're going to have to deal with these ranged spitters kind of attacking you. And we'll keep these guys real simple. You don't want to make the ranged ones mean. But we can place that guy there, and we can do the same maybe on different elevations. We could even be kind of annoying and put one over there on that platform that no one can reach, so the spitter can keep attacking you if you go in its range, but I don't want to be that mean. So we could add in, you know, some different scenarios here. And with these guys, you have the same parameters, HP, you know, the parameter, aggro range, all that kind of stuff. So now we got a couple of these guys in here. We already know this guy's going to try and get us. Our player doesn't, so that'll be a fun surprise for the player. And then when we come up here, we got this little guy. And these guys are actually designed to kind of run away. We can double check to make sure it can move. It doesn't really seem like he wants to move. I don't know if he'll chase. So it doesn't look like he's chasing. So we'll have to maybe make sure that these guys can move. Oh, he definitely can move. I saw him run there. And then we got this one up here. So, well, fell down. I've never been good at jumping games. Whoop. I used to play Guild Wars 2, and it bothered me how much they put jumping into the game. Here I am, making a jumping level. Alright. So, that little guy's there, and you can see he can run away using the same nav mesh agent. And there we go. So now we can get up here. We're having another glitch there, unfortunately, where the OBJ, the LOD got moved and not the actual object. So I got a pretty glitchy scene. I'll have to go back and refine. But you can see we got the enemies up and working, and that's the main thing. We got our little boss enemy. We got some spitters and some other cool stuff. Now, there is one last enemy to look at, which is the Grenadier, which is kind of the big bad boss of this guy, or the Grenadier. This guy is kind of a robot, and he should work on the same system as these guys. So, you know, maybe I make him kind of, I don't know, maybe make him replace our endgame creature. Big bad robot guy. So let's go ahead and just place him into the level, and I'm going to move my big chomper. We'll just move him off into a corner here. Maybe he's just guarding this section. We can create some sort of a story for him there. This guy here is going to aggro right away, though, which isn't ideal. So remember, we can come in and modify the script here. And this guy actually has a few additional controls here. So let's take a look at this. His scanner, we're going to reduce that way, actually detection range, that's what we want. We want to reduce that down. That way it's just to the circle. His scanner, you know, is the distance. All right, so that will add this guy into our level. I am noticing he is a little bit different. If we take a look at these spitter scripts here, we have the damageable script, and this guy actually does not appear to have a damageable script attached to it from what I can tell. So I actually don't know if we can damage this guy. Let's go ahead and see, and if not, we might have to set that up manually. So it can definitely look at us, and it seems to be able to attack us. Maybe it uses a different system, though, because this guy's kind of designed to be a boss. If you attack from the front, you'll notice it doesn't do any damage. I believe they set this one up so you have to attack it from behind. And you'll see that when I attack it, that area is turning red. So what that tells me is that I'm looking in the wrong spot for this guy, because that's probably an object underneath it. But this guy's kind of designed to be your end boss. Obviously, I'm not using it correctly here. It gains a shield there. So it actually has some advanced mechanics built into it. And there we go. It's destroyed. But if we take a look at that guy, you're going to notice he's built a bit differently. So if I expand the Grenadier, you'll see that we have the grenadier here, and then we have the skeleton, and then we have the shield, and you'll see the shield has a shield script attached. And then damageable part, that's going to be where the damageable script is, and you can see that. So this guy's more complex. You'll have to take a look at that and break them down. But there you go. We have our little enemies. We can come back up here into our characters section here, and we can just drag those under enemies and have enemies inside of our level. Okay? So pretty easy to get the enemies up and running in here. You can customize their hit radius, their aggro range, their damage, their HP, all that stuff can be modified, which is really cool. I'm going to save our progress so we have all these in here. And I am going to let you dive in and start playing around with the enemies. So set up some scenarios inside of your level, maybe set it up so the character has to sneak past an enemy. That would be kind of a neat scenario. Maybe you make a hallway and if the player moves too close, the chomper aggroes. Try a scenario where your enemy is surrounded by enemies and has to try and survive. Maybe you could even incorporate jumping into that. And you could even have a situation where you can surprise an enemy by landing on top of it, having all sorts of fun, just kind of exploring different scenarios you can use add into your final level. And try and add some sort of a story behind it. Why are the enemies there? Are they guarding it? Are they nesting? Maybe you could have some adult ones with larger HP and you could scale some down for some babies with lower HP. All sorts of really cool stuff you can do. And mix and match. Try some ranged enemies. Try some chomper enemies. Maybe play around with the boss unit and see what you can create. So now that we have our enemies placed, moving, interacting properly with the character and the environment, in the next video we're going to work on adding gameplay elements like collectibles and objectives to make the level more engaging. If you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what kinds of encounters you're creating in your sandbox, and I will see you in the next one.